Hi, James Jones from the Mid-Pacific ICT Center in San Francisco at our winter conference with Mike Qaissaunee from Brookdale Community College and the ICT Center in Massachusetts. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, James. Great conference as always.
Good. So tell me a little bit about the ICT Center.
Well, the ICT Center is what started as the National Center for Telecommunications Technologies, which was originally a center focused on 3 discipline areas: telecommunications, networking, photonics. And it shifted about 2003 to become a resource center, and shortly after that, a lot with your encouragement, moved to focusing not on IT but on ICT, which is a more global and encompassing term that really describes what we do better than IT, because it includes the communications piece of it. And so I've worked with that center since then as a co-PI for Gordon Snyder, and instead of focusing on these specific discipline areas, we've been focusing more on being a resource center to other ICT-related centers and projects around the country.
And you've done a lot of work in the area of social media.
Yes, yes. Gordon and I were probably, within the ATE community, we were probably some of the earliest adopters of social media and Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so we've been doing that almost since the beginning in some fashion.
So community college teachers, what would you encourage them to do with regard to social media?
Well, I think that social media can be very scary for some. So I think that I always encourage people to sort of dip their toes in, experiment with different social media and see which ones they have an affinity for. So some people may really gravitate towards YouTube and making YouTube videos and sharing information that way. Some people may really find Twitter to be the vehicle that really works for them. I don't think that all people are comfortable in all different environments, so they really need to find out what works best for them. So for example, I think you guys are doing some fantastic stuff with YouTube. I know some schools in Massachusetts that are doing great stuff with Facebook. Some of your faculty here are using Twitter very well. So again, it's individual.
So do what you'll actually do.
Right, right. And what is engaging for you? If it seems like work for you, then you're not going to enjoy it and you're not going to get anything out of it.
Good advice. So you're also now engaged with e-books. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, on our campus, I've been seeing, and this is true of every campus, I'm sure, more and more students that come with their mobile devices. So whether it's smartphones or tablets and laptops, short of that. So we had a little internal project. We have a little internal funding mechanism called BIG projects, so Brookdale Innovation Grants, and so. Faculty member that teaches electronics for me applied for a little grant to do some mobile apps and e-books for electronics. So very small scale project, about $1,800, but it's these little seeds, these little projects, and it's a 1-year project, and then you have outcomes and deliverables. And based on the work he did, I sat down with him and we actually took his original concept and we scaled it up into a much bigger project focusing on other content areas. And so the idea was these students are coming with these devices. They have them in their hands all the time. Let's leverage that device that they already have and get the content on there in some fashion so that we can get them interacting with the content. Because what I'm finding is that students don't want to read. They can read, most of them, unless they're in remedial classes and struggling with it. But for whatever reason, they just don't like to crack the book open and read. They don't want to carry the book around. I would say a class of 20, maybe 3 people bring their textbook to class with them. So if we can sort of flip the paradigm and get them engaged with their mobile devices, and not the e-books that you see from publishers now, because I don't think those are very engaging, but do something where you have interactive elements, something that engages the student versus just a, what on many devices now just looks like a PDF of the book. And so to me, that doesn't really serve the purpose, because if they're not going to read the print book, they're not going to stare at the PDF of the book either.
So in 2010, we reached an inflection point where there were more of these smartphones and tablets shipping than PCs. And this year, 2013, we're reaching an inflection point where there's actually more of those devices in the world than there are PCs. So these are the things that people have and use. Let's get the educational content into these devices, and let's make it more engaging than the traditional textbook. That's the gist of it.
Right, right, and it could be the model we're looking at. We have 3 content areas that we're working with right now. So what we're trying to do is leverage existing content within the ATE community. We don't want to spend 3 years writing new content. So we have a math book that's already been written. We have a networking book. And then we also have an AC/DC electronics book. So 3 fairly broad disciplines within the ATE community. And what we're going to do is publish ebooks with those, and then start to put interactive elements into them, get them in the hands of students and faculty, and see, do we improve engagement? Do we improve teaching and learning with these devices?
So when we say interactive elements, what does that look like?
Well, the vision I have is and again, the mobile phones are in it, the smartphones are in it, but when we talked about it on our campus, we decided that the tablet was a better form factor for these things, because when you get very small, it gets very hard to see the content and to interact with anything. But so the vision I have is sort of the landscape tablet, and in one pane you have the typical text that you might have with a textbook, and then in the other side of the device you have some sort of interactive element. So it could be it's very simple now to put a 3D object that the student can interact with. So if you're teaching a biology course or an anatomy course, you could have a part of the body, and they could use their finger and rotate the brain around and learn about what different parts of the brain do as they're looking at the text. So they're not jumping out of the book to do that. They're doing it in the context of what they're reading. Other examples are just little assessment quizzes that you can build right into the book, so that as they're reading it, they can go and then take a quick little 3-question quiz, figure out how well they understood it.
Did I get it?
Yeah, and then if they have a problem, they don't have to jump back to the book to where the content is. They're still in the content. The content's sitting there right next to them. Audio, video. We're working with Pellet Productions in Massachusetts. They do ATE TV, so they have a ton of content. So you imagine at the end of a chapter, you might have a career exploration video that talks about different careers and has examples of graduates who've gotten these careers. And because these elements can be HTML5 and web-based, it really opens the door to creating, virtually anything. I mean, one of the things I wish Cisco would look at, for example, Packet Tracer. Imagine if Packet Tracer were web-based like that, where you could put Packet Tracer right next to networking curriculum. They could drag and drop routers and PCs, build a little network, and then run a simulation right there as they're learning about it.
I guess there's all kinds of possibilities there. Video and animation, quizzes, problem sets, opportunities to practice, simulations, links to other information sources.
Right. We've put even little whiteboard exercises where you might have a background image, and the students have to use their finger and mark up the whiteboard, and then they can even email it to their instructor. So you email the assignment right from the book.
And I guess you don't even have to have linear progression at that point.
Right,
You
right.
can just pursue your interest in this environment and get there in the end.
Yeah, and that's my attitude, that if there's a section of the book that the student finds engaging, let them go to that section and get engaged. That's all you want. You want the student to get engaged, and if then they find that, well, you know what, it would have really helped me understand this if I had gone back and looked at chapter 1, then maybe they'll go back and study chapter 1 a little bit. So you can link those up, but give them multiple entry points so they can just get in there and get interested.
Cool. I like it a lot. So if somebody would like to learn more or contact you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, probably on our project website, which is a little cumbersome, but it's e-mate, M-A-T-E, -bcc.org. And so there's a contact page, and then there's also a project team page, so they can get my contact information there. They can also contact my project administrator, Kelly Parr, and contact us through her. And we'd be happy if you have some content that you want to make into an ebook. And it doesn't even have to be an entire book. So even if it's just a lesson, you have a really good lesson that you've used, you can make that into an ebook. And we're not limiting it to mobile devices. We realize that there is a there is a divide in the haves and the have-nots. So we want to make this available on PCs and laptops as well. So there are going to be web-based versions of this content as well, so that if you don't have a tablet, you're not disenfranchised by this project.
Super cool.
Great.
It's exciting. Can't wait to hear more.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you, James. Appreciate it.